Hi, welcome back to the podcast. This is another episode of Mia's Slumber Party, and today we will be talking about Bridgerton Season 3, Part 1. That was a mouthful. Okay, so originally I was not planning on recording another video yet, or even talking about Bridgerton in general. Um, but I felt like I needed to because I just watched part 1 and it was just so many thoughts, so many feelings and all those things that I'm just kind of like confused and concerned for Bridgerton. So let's go ahead and get into that. Well, first of all, yesterday was my birthday. So as well, yesterday was my birthday and it ended up storming the whole day. We had tornado warnings for like half of the day, and it pretty much closed out any activities I had or anything, so much so that it might even affect my future activities going into tomorrow. And everything might be, like everything that I was planning might be closed down. So we'll see about that. And as a act of self peace and self-health, I decided that I would not be watching Bridgerton on my birthday, because for me, Bridgerton, I'll be honest, it's not a show that I love. I like the facts that has like all this drama to it, and I can somewhat talk about it, but as far as the show goes, I wouldn't put it in the category of my favorites or like something that I would continuously go after, like excitedly talking about, as far as, like it's not the first thing to talk about on my brain. It's just something that I typically will I'll watch it because I like to watch TV, but it's not like, one of my favorite topics. And funny enough, while I was watching it, I was thinking about how it's similar to one of my other favorite shows to watch, or one of my favorite shows to watch, Succession, and how explaining the concept of it is kind of hard to make it sound interesting. Now, this is like a spoiler alert for the rest of the video, so if you want to not listen to spoilers, don't listen to the rest of this episode. But like for me, if you were typically, when I explain what Bridgerton is to people, I think of, it's Regency era, it's Regency era Gossip Girl. But if you were to just explain that by itself, it's people in the Regency era, going out on the town and exploring married life and trying to find suitors, and all those things about wealth and dominance and position as far as society. It's not the most interesting thing, just like Succession. It's hard to explain Succession and make it sound interesting because everyone thinks of Suits, and it's these people who are these billionaire extravagants fighting over who gets to be CEO of their father's company. And I've tried explaining Succession to people, but it was not easy for me. So I was thinking about that with Succession, because the smallest little thing will happen, and in reality you're just kind of like, really, like that's what everybody's talking about. But as far as like the actual like show goes, that's actually tea. And like everybody's like so excited because it's like, that's a big deal, like that's important. And so during the episode there was a moment where the guy brought out some drinks for him and one of the Bridgerton girls, or Francesca, and she didn't accept the drink. Instead, she walked away and decided to go home. And the queen was like, did he just bring out a drink? And she didn't accept it. And it was like this big like scandalous moment in her brain because it's defying her power. But for me, I was just like, from like, if an outsider were to like watch the show, and someone who didn't enjoy it or in any capacity, they would literally be like, this is the dumbest thing ever, and everybody goes crazy for this. Like, this is what y'all call drama. So I just thought that was funny. But as far as the show goes, um yeah, I was not excited with the product we got for part one. It felt completely rushed. It felt disorganized. Like they had a bunch of, or they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but they didn't know the best way of getting it out in like a deadline. That's what it felt like. Like when your teacher is, or when your teacher, your professors like gives you an essay, and you kind of put it off until like the last few days to turn it in, and so you're just writing like all these things that you know probably sound good for the paper, but they're not very well drawn out, and they're very like discombobulated, and like you don't get to dig as deep into the topic as you wanted to. I feel like that's what this season was so far. Part two is coming out, I think, in a week or two, but it just felt like it was everywhere. It felt like, okay, this is the season of Penelope and Colin's tragic love story of, friends to lovers. And we've seen that trope be done so many times in different ways. Some really good ones for me is like, you can think of Corey and Topanga, of course, from Boy Meets World, but what I really think is like, if you wanted to think about Sean and Angela, excluding Girl Meets World, because that show, I feel like it shouldn't be canon to the original, but that was a really good example of enemies to lover. They had their whole thing where they were friends, and then some like they felt like there was parts of themselves that they had to change for each other, and they just didn't want to change. Okay, so this is editing Mia here. What I wanted to specify is, when I am talking about these couples, as far as Sean and Angela, I'm specifically talking about the characters. I'm not talking about the actors or anything along those subjects. So if you hear me say something like, I really love their love story arc, I'm specifically just talking about how the couple were friends and grew into having an actual romantical relationship within the show. Not talking about any actors and what actions they have done that may or may not have considered them to be cancelable in pop culture moments, or even in their careers. So just strictly talking about the show. Okay, thank you. A huge part of it was growing up and being more mature. And in the setting of Bridgerton, where maturity is sort of the topic of this season, in which Penelope is now seen as like a spinster. It's huge, because it's like they literally grew up together, and she has had this if you look at her costumes, the costumes have all these over exaggerated patterns on them and colors that completely don't suit her appearance. And so for now, she's decided to make that change. She's seen Collins come back from going abroad and having his adventures, and she decides, I need to change who I am too, because staying in this mindset of longing for him, longing for what I can't have, isn't right for me. And so she changes her appearance, she changes her clothing, her hair, colors to match her skin tone, and not so much for people but more for herself. She's sort of maturing in this story, and I just think to have that friendship that matures into lovers would have been great to see. Instead, what we got was these two people who like each other, but don't really know they like each other. Penelope, of course, does, but Colin does not see her as anything more than like a friend, maybe even a sister, depending on which way you want to go with that. But after that, he starts seeing her as more than that after they share a kiss, which I felt like was the messiest and like the most sloppiest route that the writers could have gone with that. Like, for me, when he kissed Penelope, I felt like it was like a moment of just poor writing, because it was just like, okay, what's the quickest way we can get them to show that they like each other? Penelope asked him to kiss her just so she knows what it feels like, and he does it, and suddenly he has these sparks, and then it turns into a dream that he has, and from that moment on, he's hooked. He knows that he likes and he wants her, but will he do anything about that? And what really bothered me, every time he saw like Penelope in a new light and wanted her, is that they've been doing that same look, that same processing in his brain of, maybe I'm thinking of her more than just a friend. I don't know how to explain it, but it's more than a friend to me. Maybe it's a best friend. Maybe it's more than that. Like, he has these looks constantly, and that's why I really likes their whole arc, or their whole, like, you know, kind of relationship in season 1, because I was like, okay, you can see the friendship and you could see it building up to something more. But it's literally been 3 seasons of Colin being like, no, she's just a friend, but she's this, but she's just a friend, and you know, I couldn't possibly see her as more than that. You know, maybe this is just because I thought she, you know, dressed more appropriately now. I don't know. Maybe it's just a fluke. And after watching that for so long, it's like,
not this.
okay, we get it now, do something. Because that's, I really, every time I was watching the TV and he gave that look, I started to want to throw something at the TV, because I was like, this is the 5th time you gave that look this episode. Do something, make a move, say something, or completely act like it's not there and change your entire mindset and leave. Just do something. Don't just look at her. And it really bothered me to see his character just not taking any moves or gestures until the very last episode of part 1, you know, episode 4. And it was just, oh my gosh, so rushed, because when he did make that move in the carriage ride with them on the way home, literally, like, they park right in front of his house, he fixes her up, and then he says, are you gonna marry me or not? Like, that's the romantic part we're getting. And the whole big thing with Bridgerton, it's supposed to be a romantic show. It's supposed to be a slow burn. And this movie just kind of like fast forward through all of that. On top of that, again, I was watching Marshall Stannus's YouTube video again, because I love him as a YouTuber. He was talking about how in each season, right, they had the main characters, and it was very clear. So you had Daphne's storyline, and you could tell that Daphne and the Duke were the main characters, and Anthony was her brother who was protective, but he was still a side character having his own quest. That's great. In season 2, it was Anthony's turn, and he had Anthony and Kate, and they became the main characters, and you very much felt that. Meanwhile, there's still people like Benedict who were still going on their own journeys and traveling throughout the show. That's great. Season 3, you did not get that same feeling. It did not feel like this is the season of Penelope and Colin. Like, yes, I knew it was that, but only because the show kept telling me, like, this is their season, this is their time to finally, you know, do something. And that upset me as well. It upset me because it was like, I feel like we had 3 relationships to build on. and the show like heavily focused on these three relationships, and all of them were just fast paced, not really building a sense of a sense of deepness. They were all one sided sort of relationships. So you had the first relationship I was just talking about, Penelope and Colin, and then you had also Lord Debling, which is the guy that was also pursuing after Penelope, who it's been 4 episodes and he's already decided that he's not only not going to marry Penelope, but he's probably not going to be in the show anymore. So a waste of a character, a waste of our time. You had Francesca Bridgerton going on her own adventures of being the, I don't know, they don't officially call her a diamond, but she's like, they refer to her as sparkling. So you have this like sort of wannabe diamond moment going on in the show, where she's going through a suitor she likes and then the suitor that the queen gives her, and it's already adjusted in your mind that, you know, she has already made her option on who she would want to be with. And then you have Bennett and this lady, I don't even know her name, I don't know if they pronounced that at all in this season, but they're more of like a flirtationship right now. Like, they're just having fun at the moment. So within 4 episodes of this 3rd season, we already have like 2 out of the 3 major couples already somewhat together, and we know what's gonna happen pretty much. It's just a matter of details at this point. And it's like, what is the point? Why are you guys rushing so much? Even though Benedict in his relationship is very much a flirtationship, very much just sleeping around and having fun, I still feel like they're gonna build up that slow burn process for them. Even if they don't end up together, I feel like it's gonna build it up more than anything we've seen with the other 2 couples. It literally is just like, oh, well, we believe that these 2 belong together, so we're just gonna put them together, and we're gonna tell you guys that there's obstacles. Like, it's a lot of telling and not showing as an audience, and it is just so dry. It's not even boring of a show. It's just like, I literally just sat and watched those 4 episodes in a row, and I felt like I watched a whole lot of nothing. Like, there was just not build up there. And I don't even know these other people's names, to be honest. I don't remember their names at all, but they were also a major part of season 3. And they had their own little arc that they're going through and all those things that aren't widely important. So Will and Alice, they were friends of the Duke in season 1, and you know, they were doing wrestling, and then Will started his own club for gentlemen, and then after that, you know, they're here now in season 3. And so now their son has been left with a huge estate, and now they're part of nobility and honor society, and their whole arc is, we're gonna get used to noble society, but I still want to hold on to my club. Which one should I do? It's all very extremely boring, and I get incredibly just bored and tired of the entire plot line of them. And it feels like the only reason they even have these moments with them in the show is because of what Queen Charlotte did, which, you know, it was this grand love story that bridged the gap between the different races, more specifically interracial marriages and whatnot in society. And so now that there's this black couple in nobility, it really shows like, oh yeah, like, we're Bridgerton and we're diverse. But is, again, incredibly forced. Again, you didn't have to have You could have Queen Charlotte and then not have the next season of Bridgerton be all about giving us a race couple. We, speaking on behalf of me, and probably the black community as well, we don't want a token relationship. Like, if you're gonna have black characters, give them a purpose. Don't give them, reason to be there just for tokenism. And the thing is, it's like unneeded because we have Queen Charlotte there. She's still, a major character in this show. We have Lady Danbury. She's still a major character. Her brother is visiting, so he's a whole new character altogether, that is flirting with Lady Bridgerton, the mom. So it's Violet. So it's literally like these two side characters who've barely been given a story and really just truly aren't important into this world, really, other than they're friends with the Bridgertons. Not needed, not important. So giving them the storyline to support that what Queen Charlotte's marriage did was revolutionary, it just falls flat the whole time. On top of this, the plot lines with Queen Charlotte and, getting an heir for the royal throne, we're missing that from this season. So, are you meaning to tell me that, just make up your mind, Netflix. Is Queen Charlotte important or, completely irrelevant to the actual Bridgerton storyline? Because some parts y'all want to keep in, some parts y'all don't. Let us know. Because your storyline and your storytelling is just falling flat because you guys can't decide. It's incredibly frustrating, and I will be back because my food's here. So yeah. Okay, let's talk about the side characters who felt less than whole. First of all, there's Queen Charlotte herself. Now, I'll be real honest, I only watched highlights. Like, I know everything that happens in the Queen Charlotte special, but I only ended up watching highlights of the show, and I heard that her character is very much more pronounced, it just has a lot more depth, has a lot more brings out her character in Bridgerton a lot more as a older adult. And so I gotta say, she got her own little special sort of commitment, but now coming back to the main storyline, her character just feels flat to me. It's only been 4 episodes. She really hasn't done much, but what she's done has been the bare minimum. What is his name? I think it's Grimsley or Brinsley, something like that. Her relationship with him stands out a lot more since her special came out. They have their own little kind of banter, and they know each other. They have these this little moment where it's they are almost good friends, except for the fact that he works for her and is a servant of her. But yeah, apart from her brief conversations with Lady Danbury, she is reduced in this season. She just feels less. But Lady Whistledown's not targeting her as much. Of course she's gonna, at the beginning of the season, target the queen, but as more drama and chaos goes off, she's been more targeting, the people around her rather than directly the queen. So the queen just really has just been there for me, just almost like a hollow character. Lady Danbury, she is a side character that, she's still there. Again, reduced, but not so much like Queen Charlotte, that her presence is just halfway. For me, Lady Danbury is still a very solid side character. She still is in her position and still moving things around, especially with the rise of her brother coming into town this season. We really get to see how their relationship is, which he doesn't know anything about his sister, but he's trying to learn more about her, but he's not necessarily going after getting to know her. And you can almost tell in her eyes that she's over it. She doesn't want to revisit the past. She doesn't want to, get to know her brother. So that's going to be a great arc that I think we get to see. But again, it really adds to that whole point of Bridgerton I was talking about earlier. They just have so many stories and so many things going on that this season's already feeling very crowded, and they're rushing the things that they shouldn't. They're adding the things that they shouldn't, and because they want to get all these great storylines and all those out, everything is kind of reduced and not fully as written out as it should be. I feel like part of it, as successful as Bridgerton has been, I feel like part of that is just because they probably were demanded by Netflix to do it this way. Like separating the seasons into two, I feel like that shouldn't have happened either, because it really just took away, like, shows aren't meant to naturally be binged. But in a show where it's kind of got into the rhythm of people binging it, and it knows what it is, and people expect to binge it, they had to really adjust how they write shows today for the streaming services. And so in this case, it's like they're trying to take a step back from that streaming where you can binge it but only a little bit, and it does not work well with this show. And so I feel like because Netflix split it in half, and that binging is half, but then also like Netflix has that great track record of canceling its shows after 2 or 3 seasons, I feel like Bridgerton was really just trying to throw out all these storylines just in case that Netflix might cancel them. They can still have something to be like, give us one more season so we can complete the storylines for the fans. It felt like a safety net for them. But for us, it's more of like a dropping of the ball, and just like they're losing their pace. They're losing everything that people loved about the show. Even me, who isn't super keen on the show, everything I really liked about the show is just not really there. Like, I really liked the drama. I really liked the romantic aspects of the movies, and of course the time period. I love, movies set in the past and have that own, like, their own little language and their own little setting that kind of pulls you away from reality and puts you into that world as it is. But for this season, the drama feels flat. It's a bunch of things we've all seen before. Not a lot of differences or different changes. And I'm a sucker for romance movies and shows and stuff like that. My favorite show is How I Met Your Mother, a show where one of the most cheesiest, ooey gooey romantic character is on screen, doing these grand gestures, is displayed. And so for me, I really love that type of thing, and I love to watch that. I love to experience it. But for me in the show, it's kind of losing all of that. It's kind of it's bare shell, and it's just like, okay, these are popular things that people liked from season 1 and season 2 and Queen Charlotte, that we're just gonna copy and paste those things into this and just change it a little bit. And though I think it's also just become a meme of the great I love you gesture, or the great I love you saying, like in the Bridgerton series. And so like the first season was I burn for you, and every season it's like progressively less, like you feel it less. And so I just feel like those grand moments are stuff like that is the things that Bridgerton is like repeating, but it's still lacking all the heart it had. And so far in part 1, we haven't even really gotten the big I love you. We've gotten Collins running to her carriage and saying, I like you. They kiss, and then he proposed to her. And I liked it up until the point where he like immediately was just turned around and is like, I'm gonna propose to you now. Like, that was just super rushed. I just felt like their friendship was something that I liked in the first season, and then as the story came on, it came like we didn't really care about their friendship because they were focused on, well, Penelope is Whistledown, or Lady Whistleton, and so we need to focus on that. Like, that became the whole thing surrounding her character. And so now that it's finally her season, finally her turn, they're like, okay, well, we'll revisit it some more. And it just feels like, like everything they put on hold, they're just like, okay, we're ready to buy it now. And it's not paying off at all. It's like if you put a dress on hold at a store, and then by the time you buy it, it's like it's out of season now. Like, what are we doing now? It's just like we should just bought it then so we could have worn it, but now we have it and we're probably just gonna wear it a lot less. Like like buying a winter jacket for 50% sale because it's summertime now. Like, it's useless now. Something else that I really liked about this season. Yeah, I think it's just like, even though some of the main characters weren't as present as I would have liked them to be, or as present as they were in past seasons, I felt like sometimes they shined a lot more than the main storyline. I think that's a problem. I think Violet really, really, I mean, you've seen her as this motherly figure in the past, um, guiding the Bridgertons towards their love lives, or helping them to, in society. We saw a lot of that, but this season we see even more, and I'm completely here for it. The moment where Colin is asking for advice on how to turn a friendship into a love, or how to realize when when the person you love is also your friend, and to see if they love you back. Her advice is just so precious in the storyline that actually made me care a lot more about the relationship than any of their scenes, or what the writers wanted us to think. Like, that, like, a lot of times Cullen would have that look in his eyes of desire and wanting her, and Penelope would just stay talking to old boy in the corner, but glancing at Cullen from the side, and wishing he would do something. And I was growing tired of them too. But as soon as Violet popped up into the scene and said something, I was like, you know what? I kind of want them to get back together now. Like, like that was something that was reawakening my just me caring for these characters again. And so I think just seeing her relationship with Lady Danbury, but also how we saw season 2, she lost her husband, or how she lost her husband, and then now in season 3, and or then in Queen Charlotte, seeing her reawakening certain feelings that she hasn't had since her husband's died. Now seeing her almost casually flirt with Lady Danbury's brother, and always looking after her kids, always wanting her kids to have great passion, great love in their relationships, and not just marry for status, which is, you do not get that a lot in period pieces. A lot of times the moms are just like, he's rich, he has land, and we see that as well. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, just seeing all that come for her, and then for her, I can see the storyline turning towards her, and finding that love and that happiness for herself, finding love again after the loss of her husband, and just seeing like, yes, this is about getting the children to marry well and marry who they want, but at the same time look out for herself as well. I think that's going to be a very sweet moment in this season, if they finish it off in this season. But yeah, so what I was talking about earlier was just the I literally cannot remember her name, but Lady Featherington, Penelope's mom. I just the way that juxtaposition between her and then Violet is just cruelty in this show. I love it. It does add a sense of character development. And so, Penelope's mom hasn't always been the most love driven. Apparently, her name is Portia. Okay, but she hasn't been the most love driven. She's probably one of the more realistic characters as far as marriage and relationships. This season, she was going after getting her daughters, the ones that are married, to produce an heir so that they can have their financial wealth because they're losing it. Then there's Penelope, who she's been forcing, like, you're basically trying to okay her and say, like, it's okay to not marry, because she doesn't believe that Penelope will be able to have that marriage like everybody else. And then when she finally gets an offer, she's like, you're holding out for love, like, love is rare, do not focus on that, what you should focus on is stability. So she's very much like a voice of reason as far as the town. That's her main characterization and purpose, is to just stay in the town, be in high ranks of society, wish well for her daughters. Like, she will always be that mother that looks out for her daughters, but also, like, is realistic with it. And I don't not love her character, but I'm not, she's not one of my favorites either. But the direction I really wish that they would go for her character is to completely just make her that mom that's about the money and the wealth and the status, and just fill her out in that way. Like, what I really would love to see her be is, like, what is her name, like Marissa's mom from the OC. I don't know why everything I just said was in a question mark. But literally, let me look up her name real quick. Alright, y'all, so the mom's name in the OC is Julie Cooper, bro. Okay, now at first I thought it was just because she's a white woman with red hair and money, but no, when I was looking into the character, I would really love to see her be a stronger, more independent mom figure like Julie Cooper. The mom that was very hard on Marissa, very much. Even in the OC, Marissa and Julie, they were always butting heads with each other. Marissa liked her dad more than her mom. And, she was very headstrong, but she was also just a strong character in general. She was doing anything and everything to secure the financial aspects of her family, because Marissa's dad didn't do that in the beginning. She was going after, like, all these wealthy rich men, and she was thinking of stability and money, which I'm not going to say that was right, but she was thinking about those things before love, and she was constantly doing whatever it takes to make sure her daughter's okay. Like, if anybody even did the slightest amount of threatening against her daughters, she'd have their head on a platter. Like, and her character is very compelling, because that's what her redeeming quality is that no matter what, she's always going to be that mother that's going to fight for her children. And I feel like Portia in Bridgerton is like a fraction. Like, she's like 30% of what Marissa Cooper was. And I think it would be so interesting if that's how, she ended up. Like, if that's how she kind of came out as a character, to be that sort of mean, sort of headstrong and not even confident, just like very, very much like you don't want to mess with her type of person, hardcore mother figure. That would be an excellent thing to see in the show, that unfortunately I don't think we're gonna get to Netflix, and I don't know why these all these streaming services keep releasing stuff for me to beef with, but that's what we're at. And so yeah, I just feel like Bridgerton season 3 so far, rocky start. Who knows? Maybe the later half is better. I know I'm in the minority when I think about this, but I was not into season 2 as much as I was into season 1. And so I just feel like this is maybe we can correct this a little bit more, because this is just not what I was hoping for as far as season 3. I went into it with a full heart and very open to wherever it would lead or go. But the outcome, the product we've received so far just isn't it. And again, the biggest thing that I hope for when I watch, Bridgerton is the romantic aspects. Do I feel that connection to the characters? Do I feel like they're a good match? And what bothers me is that, I've said a lot, but one of the things that bothers me is that I did feel that they would be a good couple. They would make a good match in season 1. And somehow they've managed to just completely shift my opinions and my thoughts of that as of the show kept going. And now I'm just like, again, it's all on Violet to see if I care of them or not. But yeah, it's just that when they announced who Lady Whistledown was, it was okay. So in season 1, that was good for them to reveal who she is, because I was like, oh my god, like, well, I wasn't that shocked. Like, you can kind of guess, but it was refreshing to see. But then season 2, you're like, oh, this moment would have hit a lot more if Lady Whistledown didn't get revealed until now. And now we're in season 3, and all I can just see is like, how is everybody not guessing it's her? Like, literally, like, out of all the things, all the like little pamphlets she's released, most of them are surrounding Penelope. Like, I get she's not even a diamond in the ball, but I get like all the drama surrounding her this season. But there's some stuff in there that I'm like, that's a little too close to the source for it not to be Penelope. And it's not even just that, but it's also like, out of all the things that she's revealing, majority of them about Penelope and not about anybody else. So I'm like, why is Lady Whistledown so interested in Penelope when we're really not? Like, when everybody else isn't. And like, everybody's probably reading like, oh, new Lady Whistledown, and then they're like, why is everything Penelope in here? That's so weird. Like, that's so random. Like, why Penelope? Because all the information Penelope is getting is her. Literally, every time something would happen in the show, like, especially when Penelope would get some sort of news or something at a party or at a ball, she would literally run off crying and go home early. And I'm like, girl, like, you have a job to do. You better wipe those tears, go back into the ball, and listen to some gossip so you can write it down. Like, what are you doing? Like, all your gossip is just gonna be, oh, and our newest lady, Featherington, just ran off from the ball again without any suitors in arm. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're literally like giving away your position, and now you're not gonna have any gossip to print tomorrow. So what are we doing? I saw in episode 1 of season 3 that, I want to say like the first 10 minutes into the show, I knew exactly where the whole plot of the season was going to go, or at least I can guess it. And if it doesn't even go the way that I think, it's probably going to be less dramatic than what I think it is, which is going to be worse. But also, what I'm thinking is going to happen for the ending season, or the ending part of season 4, what I think is there's going to be this great big revelation where Colin is like, Penelope, I love you, and I'm at a crossroads because I love this girl so much, my friend, that I finally placed what we are. We are about to get married, but then at the same time, she's Lady Whistledown, and Lady Whistledown has strongly become my newest enemy for exposing my family, my friends, and everybody else close to me. and just having this battle between, I love her but also she's her, and seeing, okay, if we're gonna be together, I'm gonna need you to leave Lady Whistleton. And Penelope's gonna be at a crossroads too, where she's like, you know what, I love you, but at the same time, I can't give up what makes me me, what brings me in, the passion that writing gives me. And he's gonna be like, well, you could write something else. And she's like, but it's not the same. You're still asking me to change for you when I can't truly be myself. And so I feel like that might happen. What would be a really good twist is if Homeboy came back, that Penelope was talking to and nearly got engaged to. If Homeboy comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna travel less, or we can travel together, whatever it takes, and instead she decides that she's going to be in that marriage than the one with Collins, because he took too long and he wants her to change so much, rather than the other dude who's gonna change for her. But I don't think Netflix is gonna do that. I don't think they have the guts. I don't think they want to try. I think this is all just a scenario in my head because they're too scared or whatever.
That's just a theory. A film theory.
I don't see it happening, but we'll see. I might actually have to record a part 2 to this episode for the other half of season 3, depending on how I feel, because listen, if I like the season, I probably won't make another episode. But if I don't like the season and I have a lot to talk about, I'll probably will make a part 2 to this, because this is bad. But yeah, that's today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and enjoy life. Bye.